Video games have been around for decades, and many people, young and old, have played them. The entertainment industry makes a profit mainly off young children who play video games as they grow up to be teenagers. However, many of these games may contain violent content. If kids grow up playing violent video games, it may affect them negatively in the future. But however, video games can be very helpful in gaining certain skills and ideas. Unless they're playing the wrong type of video games, of course. Violent video games can be detrimental to a young person's development and growth if not played with caution. Video games are a huge revenue generator for economies, but have also had detrimental effects on our youth and have corrupted the minds of users who play these games. More specifically, violent video games. Over 97% of children from the ages 12 to 16 play video games. I believe these children's minds have not fully developed yet, and they are still susceptible to corruption when they play violent video games. In all of 2015 alone, all video game sales brought in around $115 million. That is crazy. And over 30% of games being sold are either action or shooting games with a crazy amount of drugs, violence, swearing, and murder. The children and teens that are playing these games are still developing, learning what the real world is like. Video games are the central point in a modern childhood for children. They're not playing basketball or going on bike rides like I did when I was a kid. But instead they're shooting up hospitals in Grand Theft Auto or killing other online players in Call of Duty. Brad Bushman, a professor of communication and psychology at Ohio State University, says that no one is immune to the effects of violent video games, just like no one is immune to the effects of cigarettes. With that being said, the video game industry is responsible for a good chunk of our economy, but has also corrupted the brains of our youth, which has caused some of the nation's most terrible tragedies. The popular argument with violent video games is that they are responsible for real-life crimes, which they have been. There have been more than one crime committed due to violent video games, but one of the most popular video game crime, and all the nation's crimes throughout history, is the Columbine Massacre. On December 10th, 1993, a game was released to internet servers, unleashing on the world one of the most influential first-person shooters ever. The game is called Doom, and due to the influence of this game Doom, one of the deadliest school shootings happened. Two teenagers, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, went on a shooting spree on April 20th, 1999 at Columbine High School in Colorado. They killed 12 students, one teacher, and injured 23 others before they committed suicide in their own school's library. Video game critics commonly hold that violent video games, including the game Doom, contributed to the 1999 Columbine Massacre. But an Oregon psychiatrist theorizes that not being able to play the game Doom may have been a far more significant factor in the murderous rampage carried out by Eric and Dylan Klebold. The killings devastated many families and friends of the victims. It left many people wondering why they would do this. The two teenagers played the game Doom an unhealthy amount. They were absolutely obsessed with the game. And before the shooting at their own high school, they stated in a video that they recorded that what they were about to do was going to resemble the killings inside the game Doom. And I believe that straight up says that the game contributed to Eric and Dylan's thoughts and actions that day at that high school. What measures can be taken to ensure a tragedy like this never happens again at Columbine High School? Many suggestions have been heard, but the current and most effective system to protect our youth from violent video games is an age rating system that has many attacks on its own effectiveness. Violence in video games started becoming a national issue when the video game rating system came about. There was a system put in place that rated each game based on its own content. And the main plan for this system was to rate games based on their content and assign a recommended age for the parents to determine if that game was suitable for their own children. The ratings of this system started rated E for everyone, which is acceptable for all age groups. The next rating is everyone 10 and older, which is obviously 10 and older. The next rating is 15 and older, followed by 17 and older, and 18 and older. For example, an M rating means that players 17 and older are best suited for this game's material. The majority of these games include blood, swearing, gore, and a crazy amount of violence. Many of these games are also being played by players under the age of that game recommends, which completely blows the ESRB out of the water. There's no reason for it. The reason behind this is that parents are buying games for their own children with no knowledge of the game rating system or even what's inside the game. Parents need to be better aware of the violence in the games and if they're suitable for their children. The system that rates these games is known as the ESRB. It stands for the Entertainment Software Ratings Board. The ESRB is an organization used to analyze video game content, and they strive to provide a safety net on the gaming industry and all of the children that play games. The ESRB also monitors video game advertising guidelines and enforces responsible privacy practices for online games. We all know that times now are very different, especially after the ESRB system and some terrible tragedies that violence in video games have had a hand in. The 1970s were when the first video games came out. They were basic 8-bit graphics. The video game genre was starting to acquire progressively advanced gaming technology. The 1980s was a period of genre innovation when the industry began experimenting with non-Pong games like fighting, platform, adventure, and role-playing games. And now in this modern day and age, graphics are more realistic than ever, and games have more in-depth scenes with violent scenes. After being said, the video game market is huge, even bigger than when the Nintendo 64 was being played. It supplied millions of jobs for Americans. The amount of teenagers that are being affected by violent video games needs and can be reduced. A change is necessary in order to lower the amount of aggression and behavior problems within children that play the games. With the help of everyone, change can happen, the gaming population can be safe, and video games can continue to become a great form of entertainment for years to come. Thank you.